Well, hello and welcome to the Total Woman Show. I am so excited that you're here today. I am here with my co-host, Jody Tucker, leadership coach from Canada.
Hi.
Patty Cotton, executive coach from Los Angeles area. And Coach Allison, health coach in Los Angeles. Wow, have we got a topic for you today? Let me tell you, it is why women don't ask. You know, the evidence is overwhelming that this is a problem for which our entire society is to blame. And you know, this is something that's just not for men or women. It's for everybody. And it's truly what I think is a socially constricted problem that rather than something that is just innate, again, to males or females, but it's something, why is it that women just don't ask? Is it a blind spot that we don't recognize? So today we're going to talk about that in terms of why women don't ask. Why?
Well, I know that, I'm from Korea. I was
Yes.
born there and I spent my childhood there in Korea. And just in that culture, asking or talking to authority about anything that you want or expressing your desire is not encouraged.
Oh.
And so, and that's actually the reason why I got in a lot of trouble when I was young. And many people talk to my parents about it. It's like, you know, she is just too outspoken.
Is that for
She's
girls and
asking-
boys? Do you think?
Girls mostly.
Mostly girls.
In the Korean culture. And but I have to tell you though, my parents never discouraged me because my mom herself, she herself loved that I could speak whatever I wanted to and ask what I wanted to. And so, only when I got older, I found out that a lot of people complained to my parents about it. It's like, you gotta, raise your child right,
Yeah.
But my parents never told me not to ask.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for that because, before I became a health coach, I was in engineering and I made it up to a senior level. And in that field, women definitely have to ask, but that doesn't always happen because they think, well, they're going to call me names. Men are going to call me you know what, right? And women worry about that, and asking for what they want they're worried that it will be perceived as selfishness or not a team player kind of thing, and there's a lot of fear in that.
Yeah.
Or the perception that somehow you're lacking. If I ask, that means I don't have it all. I don't have everything I needed when I started. How dare I start without having everything? And so asking is like saying somewhere I'm lacking.
Yeah.
And doesn't that sort of you have to have a lot of guts to say, by the way, I am enough and I also need this.
But it is almost like an epidemic in the sense of I don't care who I meet, women, in career professions and business world, they still have that timidity about asking. And when it comes to negotiations, do we even want to go there? When you talk about negotiations, and you know what? It's something you said that sparked when I was growing up as a child. I remember I was very outspoken and loved people and was running up to people, and my mother would always, and I would be asking questions, and she would shush me, and I remember that. No, it's not your turn, and so that caused me to sort of be reticent about being forward because you thought, something's wrong with this child. She's running around, going up to people, asking questions. What's your name?
And the interesting commonality is it's a reflection on the parent, right? Somehow they've not done their job because you happen to be this outspoken, unapologetically present child, and so that sort of tells me that when we start asking, it's like saying, you know what, I've separated myself from needing permission to show up. I don't need permission anymore to be present here and to be honored for who I am, right?
Right.
When you do that as an 8-year-old, people are like, no, you belong over here, and so your parent, you are under the identity of your parent or so on. Then you get into the workplace. Asking in the workplace it requires that you understand that you have an identity and a role that is legitimately you. Even though you are going to a boss, and what you're asking and how you behave is a reflection on your business, is a reflection on the person that you might be reporting to, or the people that you're supporting even.
Right.
you have to be okay with embracing the idea of being completely separate and identifiable as you.
But
Then
how-
you can
but-
ask.
But the question is,
it's
how
hard
do
to
we
do
know
that.
when it's appropriate to ask and when it's not appropriate to ask?
So developmentally, we are behind the 8 ball at an early age.
Yeah.
Because girls are able to keep quiet and behave physically more than boys of their same age. So how do we get rewarded? Good girl, you're quiet and you got an A on your paper. We do not get rewarded for saying, teacher, teacher. The boys, because the teachers know that they can't behave, whether that's true or not, they just have a harder time sitting down in their seats
They
at a young age, are rewarded on the playground for getting messy, for competing, for getting out there and asking for what they want. So the way that that translates into the workplace is we have learned to be quiet and wait to be rewarded. So a male counterpart may go in and ask for a raise and get it. We will wait to be recognized, saying to ourselves, they'll recognize my work and reward me. And that does not serve us.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
You know, it's really
Yeah.
interesting. My thought is all of a sudden I see this playing out in relationships.
Oh, good
I had a
point. That's a
visit
good
with,
point.
with the doctor the other day, and interestingly enough, and she's from Korea.
Oh.
And oh yeah, yeah. And so we got
I might
into
know her.
this dialogue.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is that as we started to talk and get a little personal, and I talked about that I'm going to be speaking on life-work balance next week, and how do you balance it? I'm intrigued with that since you
Yes.
did your book
yes,
on life-work
in the
balance.
correct word too.
Right, I
Life
said the
first.
correct word.
Yes.
And I said, so how do you navigate and manage this? So in the course of our conversation, she talked about how she felt almost like a single parent. Her husband is a surgeon. She's a doctor, so he's on call. He's busy. Oh God, I'd hate to be a surgeon's wife. I hate to tell you that, but anyway.
Yeah.
And the phone always there. And I said, but have you talked to him about your needs? And I said, you know, obviously, if he's a surgeon, you're a doctor, you guys are at a socially upward mobile, I would think, position in life
Yeah.
where you can sit with him and talk about what your needs are. I mean, she says, I have my children too in daycare. And I'm saying, daycare, you should have like a nanny. I mean, I was saying someone to cook, someone to be there.
They're both doctors. I mean, they can all.
But and she said,
obviously-
but it's hard. You know, that's the first thing out of her mouth. It's hard to, and so I bring that point up because even in relationships,
Yes.
to negotiate and to ask for what you need. It
Oh,
is-
yeah. It is.
Definitely. If you will take a look at the workplace, women have the same amount of motivation toward leadership in school and in through the first 2 years of the workforce. About the second year in the workforce, they will start to hang back. And there are reasons for this. One, they don't see women at the top, so they don't think they can make it. And there are subtle biases. Now, women of color are outshine we women who are Caucasian in motivation, except when it comes to their male counterparts. They will exceed males and females who are Caucasian in motivation, but they will take a back seat to men of color when it comes to
Asking.
aspiring to leadership and asking for it.
No, because what I saw in engineering, especially, well, in my life, I mean, I don't know if it's true for the entire industry, but in my case, a lot of women saw themselves as the assistant,
Yes.
playing the second fiddle. Okay, they don't see themselves as the front and center.
Right.
Kind of
Right.
the spotlight.
Right.
You know, they
And
see
you've
themselves
got
as
to
the
see yourself. Yes.
assistant, and that's kind of how they limited themselves. You know,
Yeah.
they definitely could have done more, but when you ask, they say no. A lot of time, honestly, it happens all the time. Men will
Sure.
say no, and after once or twice or even 3 times, they just kind of decide, well, I'm not going to ask anymore because that battle is so difficult. I can tell you that right now.
It is.
You know,
It
it's
is.
the man's game, and men know it. And it's difficult to keep fighting because it happens every day.
But do you
Right.
think also that we labor with the perception that how we're going to be viewed as opposed to the reality of how we will be viewed?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do we change this reality? How do we change it?
By becoming okay with being assertive, excuse me, asking questions like you did, Dr. Barbara, when you were young. I did the same. I always got in trouble. I got shushed too. But
Oh, good. I'm glad this wasn't a credit thing. I'm glad this wasn't a cultural thing.
No, we were a whole table full of girls. Be quiet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But by recognizing that it's all right to ask for one's rightful place and then to define it. If we don't have a clear vision of what that looks like, when we ask, we'll falter. There are two things that need to shift: mindset and skill set. So you've got to have mindset. I
absolutely.
deserve it. What does that look
what does that
like?
look
And
like?
skill
Right.
set. How do I ask?
Right.
When I'm
Right.
told
It's
no,
true.
what do I do in response? How do I negotiate to success? So those are two things that need to shift
Yeah.
for us.
Well, you know, I would think too that making a list of those things that are most important to you and pursuing those things. And you know what I find is that and I say this to you probably more than you want to hear it all the time. That people want work done for them, other people to do the work, but it takes work. You know, to learn how to just become and be the best you can be. And a lot of times it's work writing down. You know, and I ask a lot of women, how many of you write down stuff? You journal. You know, oh, so I'm afraid somebody will get my journal and read it. Well, golly, my letters are to the Lord. You know, and my dreams and my aspirations. But a lot of times it's like, what are the things that I really want? And then what are those things that are negotiable and those things that are not negotiable? And so it's really maybe sometimes just sitting down with a list, just a simple list.
And you know, to go back to your question about when is it okay to ask, like, and what you're saying, Patty, about the whole idea of mindset being a piece of it.
Right.
I think that there are those critical moments where your mind, where the inner you says, now wait a minute. And we tend to not want to pay attention to those moments. True. So when's the right time to ask is when that little voice inside of you flags you for it. This is when you say something. And it might take that development of that skill set to be able to then develop, how am I going to say this? But the when it is a very intuitive process. I have to say something now, or I can't leave this alone. And I think that the more women sit back and let that voice go unheard or go unacknowledged because we don't ask, the more we devalue ourselves.
True.
And then we are okay to take that second fiddle position because we've ignored that voice that says, now wait a second, so many times, that when the men or anybody in authority then confers with that squashing of you shouldn't have listened to that inner you, we just accept that as an inner monologue now. Now that mindset is one of defeat.
Exactly.
And
it's
we
very
accept
eroding.
defeat.
Right.
Yes.
Kim, you know, I want to ask you guys, can you think of a time where you asked and you got?
Yeah.
All right.
But you know what? Not the first time. I can. The ones that stick out in my mind are the times where I had to ask several times and had to learn from asking and being denied, and then thinking, but no, I can't let this go. I'm going to ask again.
Right.
No, wait a minute. I'm going to ask again, and learning through accepting that. Just because I got a no doesn't mean I should accept a no. So I have to keep the ones that stand out for me, anyways, are the ones where I had to persist in asking and say, and those are pivotal for me to be able to say, wait a minute, what do you mean no? I don't believe the no. And I talk about that a lot in terms of my journey. I got no a lot. I mean, we all probably did, right? Sit down and shut up.
No means not now. No does not mean no.
No means ask me why.
Yeah, it's like no means not.
Well, I
now.
always say no for me means I'm on divine delay.
Yeah. There you go. See, because I mean, when I say that, I don't want to make it sound like assisting someone is a bad job or it's not good enough, or only men say no, because plenty of women said no to me too. But the fact is, I had to be okay with whatever the consequences, because when you ask, that is a risk.
Good point.
And sometimes they came unglued, or sometimes they could understand where I was coming from, and they were very, pleasant to work with. But didn't always happen that way. But I had to be okay with whatever that would happen afterwards,
Absolutely.
and how I would be perceived, and be okay with how I see myself, because people will see you positively and negatively in any conditions. That's true. Right?
Yeah.
And so it can't really, you can't make that be that powerful of an agent in your life. It's like what you think of yourself is more powerful. And what you think will work best for you is what matters. And so, people,
Sure.
when people make opinions of you, they will do that no matter what. I mean, no matter how much or how little they know about you, they will do that.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes people will judge you by that one question that you asked.
Right.
But hey, I'm living my life. I mean, I can't live it for anyone else,
And I think to both of your points, when you come to a place where you know you need to say something, because to be silent is to erode or to devalue yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looking at the consequences is not only how will they treat me, but how will I regard myself? How am I telling the world to meet me?
Exactly.
How am I telling the world to respect
Good
me?
point.
Right, good point.
When we take a support role, not out of desire, but because that's the peacemaking thing to do, we're telling the world, it's okay for you to put me in the back seat.
That's right.
It's okay for you because I am going along with you. Is what we call there's a term for it in sociology. I'm trying to remember. It's something about, it's actually a silent, violent dynamic, which has kept many minorities and women in place, if you will, because we silently acquiesce and go along with
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Although inside it's very, very emotional, stressful.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because over time we can remember who we are, and I always think of Nelson Mandela. I think this guy, this gentleman was an idol of mine, has been because he stood so firm and so strong over so many years of imprisonment, over so many years of abuse and so forth. Most of us don't have that stamina, and even though we think that we can stand firm, when we allow things in the external environment to erode us, we silently erode. We still,
Inside.
there is
That
still
ability to
a
endure is gone.
consequence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I want to point out too, that we've kind of addressed a lot of this to women, but there are a lot of men who suffer
Yes.
from this,
Yes.
not being able to ask, not knowing, not having great negotiation skills as well.
Right.
And I'm saying what I think, and this is just Barbara, humble servant here, the change agent, talking about maybe practicing in the mirror. Practicing. Someone had once told me that about, if you're going to go and you have to negotiate and tell somebody what you want, to maybe look in the mirror and practice a few times in saying that and hearing yourself say that and having it come out. Where when you make that effort, you've gotten yourself revved up into it. And that's fine.
I would actually spend time visualizing. Like when I went into big negotiations where I was sitting across the table from government agencies or lawyers and so on, people who have who out-credential me and then some. I would visualize what I looked, what it felt like, what I would be saying. So that it's almost a foregone conclusion. When I get in the room, this is exactly what's going to go.
Yeah.
Sure.
And what it's going to look like, because I saw it in my head, I could put it in the room.
Yeah.
Visualization was a strategy I used.
Yeah.
Well, and don't discount doing your homework, because it's the way. It's also the way you ask, and it's whether what you're asking is feasible for the other person.
Absolutely.
Are they able to do this? I coached a gal who had outperformed her male counterpart by 10% and was not given a bonus. And so she was not. So she did her homework to make sure he actually got the bonus and how much it was and what the company's policy was.
Right.
Then she went in,
Educated, she did her homework.
and knew, because if you go in there and you get a flat no and they say that's just not done, that may or may not be true.
That's right.
But you need to do your research, and you need to come not as an adversary, because often when we ask, we feel as though we're adversarial, as though the other person has the power to say yes or no.
Exactly.
Really positioning it so we can say, this is what I'm looking for. Can we talk about how we can make that happen?
And it's how you position it.
Yes.
One of the things is it's okay to ask is we're going to close the show today and wrap it up, because I know you've really got
Oh, we got to stop now.
No, we're not going to close the show. I just thought I'd play with you guys. Okay.
Come on.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back with your viewers today. And thank you, and stay tuned because we'll be right back. Thank you. Hi there, and welcome back to the Total Woman Show with my guest today, Jody Tucker, leadership coach from Canada. Miss Patty Cotton, executive coach from the Los Angeles area, and Coach Allison, health coach from Los Angeles area, and Dr. Barbara Young, your humble servant, change agent. We were talking before on break about women and why women don't ask, but we weren't just being mutually exclusive to women. We were also talking about men too, because this is a problem that's not only just for women, it's for men as well. And personally, I do know, frankly, a lot of women who know how to ask, but I'm not sure they're in the majority. Many of them are in the minority that do ask. So, you know, there may be the exception rather than the rule. So one of the suggestions that I'd like to throw out as to what do we need to do to change how we ask, and because it's a given that everything in life is negotiable, male or female. That's just life.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
You know, if you don't ask for what you need, whether you're a man or a woman, you're really robbing other people of an opportunity to know who you are. I mean, people can't read our minds.
Yeah.
So if they don't know what's going on inside of you, how are you supposed to have a relationship
but you
with
gotta
them?
know what's going on inside of you.
You gotta know too.
You gotta know.
But if you don't ask, then whether we're talking about marriage or parenting or being in the workplace or leading a team of people, even if you're the leader, and
God
you don't
forbid.
say, and you don't say, you know what, this is what I need. Then people aren't able to form a really strong relationship with you.
That's true. And you
Right?
have to know
Yes.
what you want first.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
coaching a female attorney back in Boston, and she said, I want to make partner. And I said, all right. One of the first things I do with my clients is to give them a values exercise.
I love it.
And so I had her go through the list of values and select her top 5. And I said, you want to make partner, right? She said, absolutely, I deserve it. I've worked hard for it. I'm a single mom. I want to afford a second home for my family and so forth. So
Yeah.
I want to make partner. And I said, so tell me, Susan, how does making partner, working 100 plus hours a week, work with your top values of travel, family time, creativity on your free time down, and so forth? How can you see how that fights against one another? And her face fell because she said, but I need the extra money. And I said, now we're getting somewhere.
That's right.
You
There's
really
the
want
core
the
issue.
extra money, right?
Yeah.
So she hadn't thought of any other way to get it.
Right.
So I said, let's huddle. And we huddled, and a couple weeks later, she went in with a job description for her law firm and proposed that she be chief talent officer.
Because
They
that's-
accepted it. They gave her a raise, and she works from 8 to 5.
You see,
Wow.
but she had
So
to go
we go.
within to look at
Yes.
really what are my values
What's
and make them congruent with what
Absolutely.
she wanted
And then
to
put that in
achieve.
the room. So
Yeah.
then, and didn't that work
Yeah.
out for everybody? So then you have this
Absolutely.
mutual success.
Yeah.
And I used to
Yeah.
see negotiation
Fantastic
as a win-lose situation. I mean, we talked about that before, right? That we, you know, where if I'm asking, it means that I win, you lose.
Right.
And instead, what we're saying is that
win-win.
negotiation is
Yeah.
about saying, how can we mutually come up with a
Win-win.
solution that fits
Absolutely.
and honors everybody?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Isn't that the best way
Well,
to make a
it is.
change?
It
Is to
is.
say, then creativity is present in the room. When you start to explore, if it's not just me generating the solution, if by asking I'm saying that I'm giving both of us permission to generate, creatively think through, strategize together, suddenly it's you and me looking at the problem over there.
There you go.
Instead of
There
me
you go.
looking at you
Yeah.
and saying,
Yes.
you're the problem.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It shifts
Yeah.
everything
It
in the
does
room.
shift.
Everything.
And that's what I call the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because you begin to look at
Yes.
things and see
Yes.
things differently
Yeah.
and solve them differently.
Yeah, and you don't need to throw
Yeah.
people under the bus to achieve progress. And by asking, you're not throwing people under the bus either, right? You're giving them the opportunity to maybe they have something they need to ask for too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
one
then you
thing
get
that
to
I
lead
want to
the process.
mention here is the language that you use when you ask.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Because
point.
Amen.
I learned English. I learned English as a
No, you
teenager.
better give it to me because you know what? I just
and I had to learn to speak English in concise manner, right? And I couldn't. So when you ask, well, do you think you could, if it works in your schedule, you could. I mean, none of that is going to work, right? You have to be deliberate with your focus to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
May I have that? Or
Yes.
will you give it to me? It can't be, well, can you give it to me if you have it? It's like, no, will you?
Yes.
Yeah,
will you?
will
Good.
you?
That's good language.
Right.
That's
You know,
good.
or will
Will
you
you?
help me make this happen for the entire team, or
Yes.
so that we can mutually benefit? I mean, there are many different ways to say it,
Or
but
how can you?
Yeah.
You know, can we look at how this might, you know, how we can make this happen?
That's
right.
Because that surfaces the hidden objections.
Yeah.
If I say to somebody, under what conditions would you consider helping me do this? They're going to say, well, I need this.
Yeah.
Here's
I
a
need
barrier.
that.
Okay.
Let me help you get that.
Yeah.
Is that what you need? That's how I got $3 million in 30 seconds once.
wow.
Well, welcome to the $3 million club.
Right.
Okay.
So,
All
so
right.
we said, so I said, under what conditions would you consider gifting $3 million to this? And he said, well, we've never done that before. I'd have to do this, and we'd have to sit down and do this, and I have to this and this and this. And I said, okay, so if I can help you do these things, what I hear you saying is that
Your
will
answer
That
is
would
yes.
satisfy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, well, I guess so.
Yeah. See, there it
Interesting.
was.
So you're really
Yeah.
asking, how can we make this
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
You don't want a yes or a no. You
That's
want
right.
and Allison's absolutely right. You have to be very concise. If you come in apologetic,
so.
like
Yeah,
you were
exactly. Yeah,
describing,
yeah.
they're thinking, well, you don't even deserve it. You're not confident about
Yeah.
it.
Exactly
But,
that.
but you
right?
know, too, you have to
Yeah.
ask in ways
Yeah.
that you're comfortable with. You know,
Yeah.
your personality drives
Yeah, yeah.
how you're gonna ask that. I mean, some of us are a little bit more out there, extroverted maybe in
Yeah.
terms of how we approach it. But I always caution women to ask, particularly women of color, if you're asking for something,
Yeah.
particularly you're negotiating on the job, ask it in a language that's very clear, but be gentle. You can remain tough, but gentle with the people involved.
Tough on
Yeah.
issues, tender on people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
be
Yes.
firm
There
without
we
being
go.
abrasive.
That's it.
All right,
Tough
you
on
got that
issues,
tough on
yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
but gentle on people. So,
Yes,
so I
exactly.
hope somebody out there, you're
Yes.
really catching this, because this is such an important topic, and I don't think that we think about it as a topic. Women don't ask, and why we don't ask, or why men don't ask. But I think I'm very glad personally that we're able to bring this to you, the subject to you today, and for us
a
to
good one.
discuss it
Yeah,
and
for
talk
sure.
about it from a very
Yeah,
personal
absolutely.
point of view.
And yeah, and again, from my culture, a lot of people, not just women or men, but just a lot of people, even in the younger generations, that asking is not a feminine thing. It's not feminine to
point.
ask
Right.
what
It's
you
considered
want.
a weakness.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you do
Yes.
with you do everything with the team, and for the betterment of the team.
Yeah.
So if you stand out and ask,
Yeah.
that's not a feminine thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and it's not just in my, I mean, I see it everywhere. As I see it in
Yeah.
engineering, I
Yeah.
see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I hope that we can help our thinking, transform a little bit, make those shifts, and say, well, it's okay to ask because I'm good, I deserve it.
I'm thinking too about, I don't know why, because the biggest thing too today is about relationships. People are really hungry for relationships and the joy of companionship and all that. But even with relationships and negotiating, being able to ask, because a lot of women sublimate because I don't want to run him off. I don't want
Right.
to run her away.
Right.
So it's like, but it's okay to ask. It's like, do you have a good? I like this. We just learned this, and I'm using this from someone I heard. Do you have a good relationship with soap and water? It's okay to ask that question.
And what happens if you don't ask and the answer shows up and it's not what you want?
Yes.
You better be
I just
asking.
had to bring that in. I mean,
You're asking for whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay, I never thought to ask that one. I have to admit. I just assumed, but maybe I'll ask now.
Soap and water, that's a
but
good
even in relationships, there are negotiation skills too. There's negotiation that comes into play, and I don't think that many women or men go into relationships thinking about this is about an ask.
Yeah.
Am I afraid to ask? What's your FICO score?
Those things are
inquiring minds want to know.
No, that is
no,
a
no.
big, huge
Yeah.
factor in relationship. I mean, it can make
I mean,
or
that
break.
can- that
It
can
can
be a
It
factor.
can be
Yeah.
a deal breaker.
Yeah.
If you find it out after the fact.
Right.
Yeah,
So I guess I'm taking it over into not only just career and in personal relationships,
Right.
that it really does affect how the outcome of that relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, I wish I had asked those questions prior
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Or I think too, when people hire a coach, and they come to us.
Right.
And this is a skill that they're learning. I find that a lot of clients need to be turned in that direction to actually to have it pointed out. This is a valuable skill. Let's practice it together, because it bleeds into all the other issues that might be more forefront. Like your example of I want to be promoted turned out to be something entirely different, right?
Yeah.
As you get led through that process, and I think finding the mentors, the coaches, the mentors, the women that you admire, the men that you admire. I think it's a valuable exercise to ask them. Because to hear the stories of successful people that you admire, the coaches in your life or that you may want to be, having mentoring you, to ask them what's their personal story.
Right.
I think there's this sort of facade sometimes where we think that those people, now they never had a problem asking.
Right.
They never had to learn it. It came natural for them, because you see the product of the practice that they've had doing it.
Right.
You don't see the struggle.
No.
You don't see the refusals. You don't see the denials. You don't see you don't see them having that I just should give up moment. And come on, we've all had that.
Oh, yeah.
We're all
We have.
successful women. We've all had that moment where we thought I should just lay down and take it. And we forget that everybody started at the beginning sometime. At some point, there was a beginning. I have always enjoyed hearing from the people that I admire their stories of asking and having to learn this hard skill, and them saying, and some of them are quite humorous when they, you can tell them afterwards. But
I enjoy the stories where they ask and they got a no.
Yeah,
and how did
it's
you turn that
great.
no into something positive?
Yeah.
Because a no, like, to me, means divine delay for me. But how did they interpret that no?
Sure.
So one of those strategies of looking in the mirror, practicing with a friend, changing your mindset. For me, one of the big ones for me was finding the mentors that I really valued how they approached their life, and putting it in front of them and hearing their stories back.
Yeah.
Boy, that's empowering.
Yeah, it
to
is
go,
empowering.
oh,
Yeah.
you're
Very
just
empowering.
like me,
Yeah.
and I'm going to screw it up just like you did. And look at you, and you're amazing. So I better get as many things wrong as you did, because I want to be as amazing as you. And to me, that was a powerful process too.
Well,
Find those
out
people.
of what I've gotten out of today is maybe to send a little email to my doctor friend to maybe approach her husband
I should
in
meet
this
her.
way.
Yeah. There you go.
How can we negotiate, for her, because I could tell she was frazzled. I could even tell.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I have a wonderful time going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Every doctor I go to, I hate to say this publicly, but it's true, I end up coaching and counseling. But anyway, I want to thank you all for this discussion today, and I hope that many of you out there have really been blessed by what we've shared. And I'm just going to try to capsulize. One of the important things is you need to change your mindset. You need to get rid of that fear. Practice in front of a mirror, asking and being free that you are able to ask for what you want. If you don't ask, you'll never get. And practice with a friend, as we've talked about, who have strong negotiation skills. Find a mentor, a coach that can help you navigate, because our joy is your joy, to be that successful person that you were called to be. So thank you for viewing, and stay tuned for us next week. We'll have another exciting, hot topic for you. Be blessed.